The morning of June 27, 2025, began like any other late June day in Shanghai. The city, a sprawling metropolis of over 24 million people, was already bustling with activity. The streets were filled with the hum of electric vehicles, the chatter of pedestrians, and the rhythmic clatter of high-speed trains. The sky, however, was a different story. It was overcast, with thick, dark clouds rolling in from the East China Sea. The air was heavy, laden with moisture, and there was an eerie stillness that seemed to foretell something ominous. A powerful storm system, fueled by unusually warm sea temperatures and a strong low-pressure zone, was rapidly approaching Shanghai. Meteorologists predicted torrential rain, strong winds, and possible flooding. The city's emergency response teams were put on high alert, and residents were advised to stay indoors and prepare for the worst. The wind picked up, whipping through the streets and sending debris flying. The sky darkened to an almost twilight hue, and the first drops of rain began to fall. What started as a light drizzle quickly escalated into a downpour. The rain was relentless, pounding against the windows of skyscrapers and flooding the streets within minutes. By 3 p.m., the storm had reached its peak. The wind howled like a wild beast, reaching speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour. Trees were uprooted, and power lines were knocked down, plunging entire neighborhoods into darkness. The rain was so intense that it was difficult to see more than a few meters ahead. The streets of Shanghai, usually teeming with life, were now eerily deserted, save for the occasional emergency vehicle battling against the elements. The storm's impact on the city's infrastructure was immediate and devastating. The drainage systems, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of water, failed to cope, leading to widespread flooding. Major thoroughfares like Nanjing Road and the Bund were submerged under several feet of water, turning them into rivers. The Huangpu River, which runs through the heart of the city, swelled to dangerous levels, threatening to overflow its banks. In the Pudong district, home to Shanghai's iconic skyline, the situation was particularly dire. The Lujiazui financial district, with its towering skyscrapers, was lashed by the storm's fury. The Shanghai Tower, the city's tallest building, swayed ominously in the wind, its glass facade rattling under the pressure. The Jinmao Tower and the Shanghai World Financial Center, two other architectural marvels, were also at the mercy of the storm. The elevators in these buildings were shut down for safety reasons, leaving those who had not evacuated trapped in their offices. The storm's impact was not limited to the city center. In the suburbs, the situation was equally grim. Neighborhoods like Minhang and Baoshan were inundated with floodwaters, forcing residents to flee to higher ground. The Shanghai Disney Resort, located in the Pudong district, was forced to close its gates as the park was flooded, and many of its attractions were damaged by the wind and rain. The city's transportation network was thrown into chaos. The Shanghai Metro, one of the busiest subway systems in the world, was forced to suspend service as several stations were flooded. High-speed trains to and from the city were canceled, leaving thousands of passengers stranded. The Shanghai Pudong International Airport, one of the busiest airports in Asia, was also closed, with flights either canceled or diverted to other cities. As the storm raged on, the city's emergency services worked tirelessly to respond to the crisis. Firefighters and rescue teams were deployed to evacuate residents from flooded areas and to assist those trapped in their homes or vehicles. As night fell, the storm began to weaken, but the rain continued to fall. The city, battered and bruised, was left to pick up the pieces. The streets were littered with debris, and the air was filled with the sound of sirens and the hum of generators as the city's power grid struggled to recover. On the morning of June 27, 2025, Shien County, a historic region in Anhui Province, China, was struck by a devastating storm that brought torrential rains, destructive winds, and severe flooding, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The day began under an oppressive haze as a powerful Mayu front system, a seasonal rain band affecting East Asia, converged with a low-pressure zone over the Yangtze Basin. By 10 a.m., the first thunderclaps echoed across the valleys, and the skies turned an eerie shade of green, a telltale sign of an impending supercell storm. At 12:30 p.m., the heavens opened. Rain fell in relentless sheets, with precipitation rates exceeding 180 millimeters, 7 inches, in just 6 hours. The narrow streets of Shixian's ancient Huizhou-style villages were quickly overwhelmed. Drainage systems failed, turning roads into raging torrents that swept away cars and debris. The Hangjiang and Lianjiang rivers, already swollen from weeks of seasonal rain, burst their banks, submerging riverside communities. Water levels rose at an alarming rate, trapping residents in their homes. Emergency responders scrambled to evacuate neighborhoods, but many areas were completely cut off by the rapidly rising floodwaters. Accompanying the deluge were fierce winds gusting up to 110 kilometers per hour, 68 miles per hour, strong enough to uproot centuries-old trees, tear roofs from buildings, and send debris flying through the air. Power lines snapped, plunging much of the county into darkness. In the historic district, several wooden structures collapsed under the combined force of wind and water. The surrounding Huangshan foothills, already saturated from weeks of rain, became unstable. Multiple landslides buried roads and isolated mountain villages. Rescue teams, hampered by blocked highways, relied on helicopters to reach stranded survivors. Local authorities declared a state of emergency, and the Chinese government deployed PLA disaster relief teams to assist with evacuations and recovery. Meteorologists later confirmed that this was one of the most severe storms to hit Shien in decades, exacerbated by climate change-induced weather extremes.
Yeah, 这里面车好多哦。